wetlands thing started in the late 80s, and then the mangrove thing started in the late 90s. So
seen any evidence of any young people, let's say, but how about who have been in the program? Are you and you've seen them later on who would have gone in that direction?
a few,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
a few, not that many.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the country, really, as much as anything. Let's see, with Brazil, it's done really well. Again, I work with an NGO in each country because I can't possibly spread myself that thin. So and it depends very much on the strength of that NGO and the leadership of that NGO if they're going to pick it up and run with it. Brazil's done extremely well. They're in 7 provinces now, and I'm just waiting for some final counts because that first started there in 2009. And they've been able to use it in some regions to, actually, the teachers and some of the students have been working in terms of protection in about 3 of the provinces, I think. I'm just waiting for a final report from them. When I was in China this time, it's interesting, there were some teachers that joined the workshop in China. We've done 3 or 4 now, 2012. In a city called Xiamen, which is on the mainland opposite Taiwan. And the Chinese Conservation Mangrove Network is there. And so they sponsored a whole big workshop. And several of the teachers there have gone on and done amazing things. 2 of them have set up their own environmental education NGO, which they did at the beginning of last year, which in China is quite remarkable. And so we worked with them this last summer. And then I was down in the southern part of mainland China. They have different reserves. Actually, the Chinese have created reserves, marine reserves, all the way up and down the coastline. Some of them are like minuscule, but some of them are huge. And so I'm working at the moment with a group 2 groups in southern China, not 3 actually. One is a coral reef group, which looks after the whole reef systems there, which is a hassle. And the other is a rare marine species group, which is focusing on everything from turtles to sharks to different species of dolphin, etc., etc. And from that group, 2 of the teachers that came from there to the workshop have actually worked with the villagers, with 2 villages, and have actually convinced the villagers to give up, I think it's either 3 or 4 shrimp ponds. The government gave them a little bit of money for the shrimp money they would lose, and they actually, the 2 villages have actually started a whole restoration program based on what we did 3 years ago. So yeah, you see little things. You don't see huge things.
No, everything counts, doesn't it?
Yeah. In that the ecosystem is probably specific to particular areas, ecosystems. Isn't there some sort of broad-based, generic information that's applicable to almost any place where there are mangroves?
There is, but again, I don't know. You can go online and find stuff. It's no problem. You can find that information, and the processes that the mangroves use for adaptations and stuff. That's pretty much the same everywhere. But again, there are different numbers of species. We've got like 3 in Buttonwood, and then I think Sri Lanka has the most. They're up around 70. China has around 30 odd. Bangladesh and India are up in the 40s. So some countries have, Aussie has over 20. So they have different species. So yeah, some of the fundamental processes are the same, but you've got different species in different areas. So you could say generally they do the same thing.
But fundamentally based upon the highly specific value of mangroves, how have you found government agencies around the countries where you've gone? Have they been sensitized to the preservation and restoration, or they do like we do, they just go in and destroy them if you want to make some money?
It depends on the country. Belize, for example, they had a huge battle to stop the offshore drilling, and the mangrove people and the coral reef people got together and basically stopped it. However, they are putting in a cruise ship terminal down in a beautiful area of basically an atoll, which is a lovely mangrove area. So they've trashed that, but I don't think they'll be able to do anything much more. It depends where you are. In a smaller country like Belize, you've got more power. Guatemala's not bad. Again, because of the NGOs that we work with in Guatemala are really quite strong and have strong political ties. And again, that if you're working with local people who have strong local political ties, that helps a lot. Somewhere like Bangladesh is mine.
Well, what is it about Belize? Because that they seem to be more sensitized to the value of the ecosystems generally. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, I have. Well, I would say the main reason is that the foundations, particularly in the UK and to a degree in the US, have put a lot of money into the different NGOs to preserve specific areas. And because Belize is so small, and because they don't have a huge industry, there's no major resources there. It's agriculture, but that's probably about it. But they don't have bauxite or anything like that to mine. They don't have much forestry, so people have tended to focus much more on, and most people, except for the native people, Indian people, live on the coast. So you don't have that disconnect where you have, people that live in a city that never see the sea, or never see the ocean, or never see the mangroves. That's the disconnect. It's easy if you don't experience it or know it.
I think that is so, because I just happened to be in the Prime Minister's office for a meeting last week, and he came in partway through the meeting, and during his remarks to the group there that was planning to have this development, eco-sensitive development done down on two of the Exuma Keys. This lady, the Swiss lady,
That one, yeah, I remember that.
He said at one point that I just cringed. He said he was someplace, and for the first time in his life, he was taken out on a boat recently, and he was able to see down to the bottom of the water. So maybe that accounts for the insensitivity that our leaders have. They probably have never dove, never been overboard.
Yeah, they haven't got a clue.
I mean, I just found that, I couldn't believe that a Bahamian, adult, grown-up man.
Had never done it, right?
Yeah. In other words, I don't think he's put on a pair of goggles and dove into a coral reef or seen a mangrove underwater.
Mr. Dave, you'd be surprised to know, well, you wouldn't, but there's a generation of men who are unable to swim.
Yes.
They don't. The water is not part of their life. Actually, can't swim. They don't even enter it.
But that's the Caribbean. The islands have, for generations, have looked inwards and not outwards, and so they haven't wanted to learn to swim.
Right.
So if you're looking in, and the only thing you use the ocean for is fish,
Right.
What do you know about it?
Right.
It's a place that produces fish.
That's actually shocking. I mean, even some of these small family islands, you'd be surprised about people who are unable to swim. But I can assure you, if you go to places like Spanish Wells, everybody can swim.
Yeah, it depends where you are. I think
it's like, because that's a part of their life. Water is their life. And
I mean, that's something should be established. I mean, on Grand Bahama, the opportunity is here because through our YMCA program, we have a program that teaches every child in every school how to swim and dive, and they have to be able to survive in the ocean.
In the ocean, yeah. But his generation, you're right, probably not.
That is really sad, because if they can't see the beauty underwater, why would they?
That's why they're indifferent. That's why they are indifferent. So when you raise these questions, they're like, what is Joe Dowell talking about?
Yeah.
When he just beating up his gum about it can't cause them problems. They just want appreciation for it.
When I was doing workshops in Grand Cayman, because I would go over a week of every month and spend doing total immersion workshops with each primary school there, because they've got 8 primary schools. And there's a little one at the east end of the island. And I don't know how he found out, but I think probably one of his kids or grandkids or something was at the school, and the local MLA said he wanted to come on the field trip because he wanted to learn about it.
It's an MLA.
A member of parliament, basically. Members of the legislative assembly.
Oh.
A politician.
MPs.
Yeah, MPs, yeah. So he actually spent a whole day with us exploring the central mangrove swamp, and it was like, his eyes just went huge, because he had no concept,
Right.
lived next to it all his life, but
Right.
nobody had ever explained it to him.
Well, that's why I think this program, this mangrove programs, and of course studying the ecosystem, is so important to get into the schools. I mean, you're a teacher, because a young man like him, he becomes sensitized with early. So when he hears the news about something going on 10, 15 years from now, of some development that is being challenged, at least he tunes in, because he has some idea or concept of what it's about. So he's probably willing to jump in and join a fight and say, well, what the hell is going on over here? Because he's being sensitized at a young age. And I think that's why it's important for us to get these kind of programs into our schools, for the next generation to save our ecosystems.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, would you be inclined to probably make another attempt to our educational
Sure.
people
Sure.
in light of climate change and
It all ties
the more-
in. It all ties in.
ties into that, and the mangroves, the importance of them being there and left alone. Maybe now, you know, they would be more inclined to.
Because you've been beating up on them for the last few years.
Yeah,
With Bimini,
yeah,
right?
so-
Yeah. I'd be quite happy to. You know, we originally the whole thing we
Beverly
did.
retired.
Beverly's retired, yeah.
Is that,
That was, she would have,
that would have been a positive thing?
well,
Well,
Beverly,
that's the lady you spoke to.
Beverly would have, but
Oh.
then unfortunately she never had a
Didn't-
strong backing
Didn't have any
generally.
power, did she?
No power whatsoever.
Oh.
She had all of the enthusiasm and passion, but no power to
Yeah.
execute anything.
Who took
See,
it?
I can tell personal stories. A personal story coming from the largest national park, land park in the Bahamas, anyhow. I remember as a little boy growing up, we went around, we used BB guns and shot birds and all that. And then the BNT showed up. Started little programs like what you speak of.
Yeah.
Started to sensitize us. I mean, and obviously it changed my whole life. I mean, I started to see birds differently. I saw creatures differently. I saw the land differently.
Did you
And,
stop
huh?
throwing rocks?
So I thought,
Did you stop
of
throwing
course,
rocks?
and you know, you go to Inagua now, you don't see, because of the BNT work that I've done there, you don't see kids going around, going after birds and stuff like that, when we were growing up. And education is important in sensitizing young people, you know, like them, and you would be surprised to know how they actually buy into it, and they change your whole country, man.
Man, where do you go when you leave here this time?
Go to the States for a day and then back down to Cayman. I have a job to go to, right?
A job.
I've stolen, but I'm retiring.
He works at a
from-
university.
Huh?
I
He
run,
works at a university.
I run a small university campus on my island, just a satellite campus.
On your island?
Cayman
Cayman
Brac.
Islands, yeah.
The main Grand Cayman has the University College of Cayman Islands, and we have a satellite. We're 90 miles away, so we have a satellite campus.
He's like on a smaller island.
Yeah, much smaller. Yeah.
Um,
So I go back and earn money, so I can do this stuff.
are you free to visit here
Sure.
occasionally and so forth?
Oh yeah, I just need to figure out when I'm going to do it and take the time. You know, usually I break it over a long weekend or something like this, because like Wednesday for us is a vacation, it's Ash Wednesday, so I just crammed a couple of extra days in between. So I can do that.
Because if you were able to be here, we could bring you here, and we have a couple of radio programs. One national over the Bahamas from Nassau. Well, we can do it from here as well. And then one that we do locally under our educational program. And if we could have you on a couple of those shows to get the information out there.
Sure. Who took over from Beverly? Anybody? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
I don't know who's the science officer now in the ministry. And they're in such a disarray, though.
Is it still Mr. Marshall?
Oh,
For the
in
island
Freeport.
or for,
Yeah,
for
but,
or Nassau?
He would need to talk to Nassau.
Yeah, Mr. Marshall is here
Mm-hmm.
locally on the island.
We
But-
in both in Guatemala and in Honduras, it was very interesting because I don't know how your structure is, but their structure is regional directors of education, and then the main ministry is sort of in some city a million miles away. And the regional directors have a huge amount of power. So we actually have been working, and in Belize too, with the regional directors for education, so that they then can zoom into the Ministry of Education with their recommendations. And they have enough autonomy to be able to introduce the material to the classroom.
Well, we can get you directly in touch with the Minister of Education and Technology,
Sure.
because before he became part of the ruling government right now when he was in opposition, he was one of the loudest ones about the
Yeah, what
preservation
happened?
of the environment.
What happened?
But now after they become in power,
Yeah.
we don't hear much from them.
No.
But my sense is that, you know, he still has that level of sensitivity.
Sure.
So we can communicate with you, and
Sure.
I will try and set up a meeting
Sure.
with him and you
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
to do this. And
Yeah, I mean, essentially, to do it for here would not be difficult. I'm not sure whose basic curriculum you're using. You presumably developed your own based on some US and some UK. What have you got?
which could mean generally.
Yeah, your school curriculum. Did you create your own, or have you just done like Cayman, stolen a bit here and stolen a bit there?
Stolen a bit here
Cobbled it
from
together.
the US, from England,
Okay.
Caribbean.
Yeah. So
And then, but then sometime, you know, we developed our own, because I was on a committee, a
Right.
curriculum committee when I was in Nassau teaching there. And Beverly was on that, and the former Minister of Education. And we actually spent weeks and weeks developing curriculum for the school. So they do curriculum development in-house.
because you know about IB schools, right?
No.
International
Like-
Baccalaureate.
Oh, yeah,
LIS.
yeah.
One here,
Yeah, I mean,
they do it here.
if it's done right, what we do is plug into the IB schools in particular, because we will modularize a project that they can then implement in an IB program, and they can do it in. This is what we did in Cayman, basically. Although there were no IB schools there, and they were two of them were trying to get that status. So that that form of sort of total all aspects dealt with at the same time is what I try to focus on, and it seems to work quite well. Yeah. The other thing we've been doing is, and you'll see in this newsletter, is in Bangladesh, and we're hoping we're starting them in Suriname too, is mangrove clubs. Because in Bangladesh they have no science in most of their schools, because they have no money. So we've been working in I think 8 schools now, maybe 9. And I get microscopes quite cheap from China. They're rechargeable. Nice little 3-lens microscopes, and so we give one to each school, and they use that.
That's
Yeah.
so China giving us military equipment, maybe. They bring us hand grenades
I noticed that. Yes.
and tanks, you know, like.
Yeah. Got to put down a revolution, Joe.
That thing's so backwards right there.
But it's kind of third world, 12th century, isn't it?
12th century, exactly.
Your anecdote on the fact that you build a really strong education program and then it falls apart. It's something that I've heard time and time again. What would you say would be principles that you would have to put in place, or that you've seen put in place in the NGOs that have led that NGO or that education program stand the test of time?
The ones that stand the test of time? Okay, the first thing you've got to do is, there's 2 kinds of education. One is superficial and the other's in depth. Obviously, the way that most of the funders and most of the NGOs work is an extremely superficial level. You've got flyers and websites and posters and brochures and little tiny books about this, that, and the other. But they don't change anything. They're just like icing on a cake, but there's no cake. So, and so what we do, the NGOs that have survived have usually, in fact, all of them, are directly affiliated to and have members, active members who are in education either as teachers in schools or as researchers or people doing work at universities, research at universities, but who are focused on not just the pure research, who are focused on the functioning of why they're researching. What is the impact of, well, in Bangladesh we had that horrible, like a week before I went a year or so ago, they had a horrible oil spill in the Sundarbans, which was terrible. I mean, they had children going in, the government was paying children to go in and get covered in oil and scoop it up in buckets. God knows what the long-term impact's going to be on that. But I had friends at the local university who were actually doing research on that actual impact of the oil on people. And so there's a study group now looking at long-term impacts, which will, same as here, they all get cancer. You know that. So, and Brazil, I have the guys that are running Institute Biomar. They are a combination of teacher and scientist, and so that is where their passion is, and that's where they work. So you've got to have people that are prepared to put in the time and understand the depth at which they must work. So like at the front of I don't have anything here on my computer, but at the front section of every teacher's guide that we produce, there's, in Australia, it was like 7 pages because they had a completely new curriculum. Every year group, every grade group, with specific areas, whether it was social studies, science, math, whatever, direct link tie-ins with what was in the book. So, you know, with IB, you can just say, okay, we're going to do mangroves the next 2 months, and this is how we're going to do it. And that's what teachers are doing in Australia. And I'm waiting to get back some information. But it depends.
In your experience in sort of conjunction with that question, how do NGOs seem to survive with a very nebulous financial basis that so many of them, you know, have? Very nebulous, not assured, etc. And it's because some of them die out because you can't, like, we could never get funding locally here.
Yeah.
You know, we have to be dependent upon some great
else.
donor abroad.
Yeah.
Because whenever you're an NGO, whether it's environmental or human rights, etc., you know, you always got to be fighting the government.
Yeah, you're not getting
and therefore everybody's afraid to donate anything to you for fear that they might be in jeopardy just as we are.
Yeah.
You know, they have those hand grenades ready for us. You know.
That's
What in these countries that you've visited and worked with, how do they garner support? Does it comes from abroad again too? I know the Caribbean, you know, they seem to be able to access a whole lot of money. Unlike the Bahamas, you know, we get left out because per capita we seem to be millionaires, all of us.
Of course, but you think it's bad here? Try living in Cayman. Yeah, right. We're hiding money from everybody, right? Sure. Well, you want my honest opinion and my honest, because I've watched NGOs play the game. Is what they do is they lie. They say they're going to do a project. They might do a half-assed attempt at it. They'll produce a brilliant report, lots of lovely photographs. The classic example is after the tsunami in Asia, where there's an organization called Wetlands for the Future set up. Governments and agencies and foundations put hundreds of millions of dollars into restoring the mangroves. Well, that most of what they did was photo op. So you round up 1,000 children and you give each of them 6 mangrove seedlings, and you bring out the local media and you take pictures for a day of everybody, all these kids sticking tropicals in the mud flats, which they shouldn't be in the first place, and then everybody goes home happy. Nobody goes back a year later or 2 years later or 3 years later to see if there's anything left, which there usually isn't. So that's the problem, is instant gratification. And one of the things that we fight with the Mangrove Action Project is, one of the scientists I've been working with for 20 odd years, Dr. Robin Lewis, developed a whole new intelligent way of restoration, which is basically restore the hydrology that you screwed up in the first place, because if you can do that, then the mangroves, if there's enough seed stock, will seed themselves. You know, and that's what they were doing in those mangrove ponds in China that I was looking at. It was fascinating, because that's exactly what they were doing. But it's not instant gratification because it takes time and things grow, and you don't have 1,000 kids grinning at the camera. Nobody's accountable, you see. It goes back to accountability about where's all that money gone. Now, you can look at the big NGOs, Wetlands International, Conservation International, World Wildlife Fund. It'll blow your mind how much money they've got. I went into the World Wildlife Fund's Hong Kong office, because they have a really nice mangrove swamp on the border with mainland China, called the Maipo Reserve, which is run by WWF. And I went in to see their education people. This was last summer, because I was really curious about what they were doing, how they were doing it. A very interesting meeting with them. So I went into this office, tucked away in part of Hong Kong. I walked up on the 3rd floor. I walked through the fancy entrance area, and there's this huge office, right? So I'm talking to these two education directors. How many people have we got? Oh, about 80. 80? Oh yeah, we've got 4 offices in Hong Kong. This is the biggest, but we've also got a huge research lab, etc., etc., etc. I said, well, what's the total number of employees WWF has in Hong Kong? Well, about 160 or so, 170. How can you compete with that? You can't compete with that if you're a small NGO. They're like this giant vacuum cleaner sucking up all the money. You know?
Well, that's the way the Central America and South America countries are.
Yeah.
They got all this money. I remember when Fred and I used to go down to these countries for human rights.
Yeah.
I mean, they produce volumes and volumes and volumes of books and
Wonderful things.
you know, and they're the most abusive people
Yeah.
when it comes to human rights. And boy, they got all the classy books, etc. And the same thing with mental health. They got all of these marvelous. They take hundreds of thousands of dollars. The U.S. pours
Yeah.
into them
Yeah.
to do this. And
But they don't want them to change, Joe.
No,
It's
they
just
don't.
all superficial BS. If they wanted to change, they would put money into proper education, and they would put it into poor people, and run a proper social system. They don't want to change it. If you were,
We couldn't even. Jamaica could get hundreds of thousands of dollars for mental health. Barbados, Trinidad, we couldn't get $1,000 to deal with to do anything with mental health in the Bahamas.